everybody, it's Miss Jen, and you're here on The Experience. This is Shop Talk, in which we talk to folks that have got stuff coming out this week, so you can be all up on information that you need to get it added to your pull list and in time to actually get a copy, instead of finding out about it on Wednesday and being like, oh, shucks, I missed it. So now you know what's going on. We have got some awesome guests for you. We've got Declan Shelby and Max King. We have Declan up first. You know him from his work on Moon Knight, Thunderbolts, Deadpool, Injection, Savage Town, Bog Bodies. He's got a book coming out this week called Time Before Time. Welcome up, Declan Shelby.
Hello.
All the way from the other side of the earth.
I think so. Just about. Or Ireland. We just call it Ireland.
Just Ireland.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so sad that I didn't get to see you this year for Comics Pro. Hopefully next year we'll have an actual Comics Pro. We can hang out.
That'd be nice. That was the last time I really saw people was Comics Pro. And that was well over a year ago now. So it's very strange.
Me too. Do you have any appearances kind of like planned out, far out, like New York Comic Con or any of those yet?
No, I mean, there's some shows happening at the end of the year, but Ireland's pretty behind on vaccines and stuff. We're looking at like America on one side and the UK on the other side going, yeah. So I can't make any promises. So I just think I'm just going to wait till next year and see how things are looking.
Well, I know everyone will be super hyped to see you. And you'll be super hyped to get out of the house, I'm sure. I
very much will, yeah. I'm going to create this fake expectation, you know. I'm going to become very mysterious all of a sudden, and everyone's going to wonder, where's Deck? And then I'll show up, and everyone's going to go, who's that hairy man?
So have you found yourself being extra, like, productive in your creative juices, or...
Yeah, I mean, when coronavirus hit and everything, it was a weird funk creatively. But like, you know, I was used to working from home anyway, so it wasn't that lifestyle-wise, it wasn't that much of a change. I had promised myself that I would have a bit more of a life and travel less and just like see people more. The traveling thing definitely happened, but I certainly didn't see anyone. So I just buried myself in work basically, and I'm thankfully I've plenty of stuff to keep me busy. I wonder when things kind of open up and all these applications I took on, I'm going to have to keep working on. That'll probably drive myself mad, but I would have gone crazy had I not had something to work on. If I'm very lucky that I had things to do, but if I didn't have anything to do, I would have been hopping against the walls. So I really can't complain. Do
you have any pets that keep you company?
I have a cat. She is on the front of my mug here. But she just kind of stares at me and I'm pretty sure judges me half the time, or is just asking where her food is. So she's not the best company, you know. She's kind of one of those animals where when she does give you a glimmer of affection, it's like the biggest thing in the world, and then she takes it away. So she keeps me on my toes emotionally. So but no, I have a couple of housemates, and they're animators and comic artists as well, actually. So it's good in that way because where I live, it's a decent amount of space, so we're not on each other's toes all the time. But it's also good to have someone you can just turn around to and like have a stupid conversation about something, you know, or have a little bit of or even show maybe if I'm working on a commission or something. Just go, does this look okay? It's nice to have somebody to bounce things off of. So again, as far as things go, I looked at pretty well.
So did you meet each other professionally and then become roommates, or it just happened to be that?
Yeah, well, it's a couple. It's India Swift and Michael Doig, and they work in. I don't know if anyone. They did this thing called Starlight Brigade, which was an animated video, which was like a smash, and like they did it here in my house, so I got to see them do the whole thing, like from scratch. It was really interesting. But they previously did they self-published a story called The Girl in the Glim. And so I'd seen that beforehand. They weren't professional; they did it themselves. But now IDW were going to be publishing that. So I'm seeing India work on her graphic novel. It's going to be this more expanded version. So weirdly, they were starting out and now have become these kind of big deal and published artists and all that. I got to see it happen, like a little comics thought. I was going to say daddy, but that's just weird. Comics daddy. No, that's terrible.
Uncle.
In a paternal way, getting to see these guys do really nice work.
It's interesting to me how there's not a uniform way in which things get developed anymore, that sometimes they start as a web comic and become a physical comic and then go to TV. Sometimes they skip all of those things. Sometimes they're TV and then they become comics.
Well, sure, you know yourself, like the market's diversified in so many ways, be it like direct market or bookstores or digital comics or whatnot, and or graphic novels or single issues or yada yada yada. Like the ways in which there used to be this kind of one way the world worked, and now success is kind of more relative. You don't need to be like the artist on Spider-Man to be the biggest name. I was actually talking to a friend of mine today about this, like, who's a bigger creator? Is it Ed Brubaker or Raina Tegelmeier? You know, like, these things they're not exactly apples to apples, you know.
The answer is yes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, but like different, it's and with the guys, it's just like I love seeing talented people do work, and I hate seeing talented people kind of wasted and not seeing, you know, not having the resources to make the most of their talent, and sometimes it's a case of like, well, I know this guy, I could send it to them, you know, and they're not aware of this person isn't aware of this person, and if you can be the person that just like introduces them, then things can happen. I like that. I think it's a great way to, like, because even from editors' points of view, like, they can't see everything, you know, it's just impossible. So I like it when things like that happen, like, and people who deserve a shot can get a shot. You know?
Have you been a creative matchmaker many times? Is it any teams that you know?
I'll say this because I know I said it on a panel. Silver Surfer Black was partly me, because I was talking to Donnie, and he was saying, I knew he was doing cosmic stuff. I don't think it had been announced. And I knew Trad was looking to do something kind of at Marvel. And I was like, you guys should talk, even though I think they actually did know each other from college or something. But I remember saying, like, you guys should talk to each other. And then of course, nobody told me. And then I see this book announced like months later. I was like, son of a bitch. I can say that because I think Donnie mentioned it on a panel. I can't. There's a couple of others, but it's not like I have any say in these things. It's just sometimes, you know, what happens sometimes is there's very talented artists, and editors assume that they're too busy, so they don't get onto them. Whereas there's artists who are like, you know, I don't have anything planned for the next year. So sometimes it can just be like knowing a bit of information in the middle that helps everybody. But yeah, no, I'm not that influential at all. It's always other people who are able to make those calls that ultimately do. But yeah, it's always nice, you know. But yeah, sorry, babbling.
You were just answering the question.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you find yourself preferring to do the writing and art on a project more, to have more control over it?
Not necessarily. I mean, it kind of depends, you know. Sometimes working on a script that's by somebody else is very difficult. Sometimes because it's difficult, it's quite challenging, which is a pain in the arse, but it's also it pushes you to kind of, you know, force yourself out of your comfort zone, you know. I haven't drawn a lot of my own writing, really. The only thing I've really done is a couple of short stories, and I did this serial for Choosing Sides, Civil War II, Choosing Sides, a few years ago. It was like a Nick Fury serial. That's the first thing I properly wrote and drew myself, and it was from Marvel Comics, you know. So
actually, I put those in my hands today. I was doing a live show and I had one, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, I'm really proud of that, because I really had to level up as a storyteller for that. But that's the only thing I've really done. So I enjoy writing for other artists, because I like that feeling of like when you see the pages come in and you're like, wow. I love taking somebody else's script and kind of making. I'm working from a script at the moment by a well-known writer, and I'm actually having trouble trying to work it out. But that's frustrating, but it also pushes me in a way that I think sometimes if I was writing for myself, I might just like write what's handy, you know. It's like, that'll be easy, I'll do that. Like, I can see that happening. But I definitely, having done it, sorry, actually, of course, I just did it for the Hulk one shot. What am I talking about? I just did it for that Hulk one shot a couple of months ago, and that was hugely rewarding, because I wrote it and I drew it and I colored it. I didn't letter it because I'm not insane, but that was hugely satisfying, and I definitely have decided to kind of go more that direction in future, just because as a storyteller, like, getting to draw all these stories is amazing, and getting to write and draw them is another way of like developing as a storyteller, and coloring is another way to develop as a storyteller. And I kind of feel that's a platform I'd kind of like to work with some more, you know.
Do you letter? Have you tried your hand at it?
No, I tried it. I used to. There was an old comic called Freak Show that it was an Irish small press comic, or indie comic, I should say, because it was in Diamond and everything. But yeah, I lettered that. It was black and white. It's like my first proper job, and I lettered it, and I hated it so much. I had to figure out how to use Illustrator, and like, oh god, it was such a pain. And I tried hand lettering a short story once, and it took me as long as it took me to draw the feckin' page. Like,
oh my gosh, really?
It was awful. I don't even know what happened to that. But no, I decided no, I'm never doing this. But I'm glad I tried it. You know, I think everybody in comics should at least try another person's discipline, because what I did learn from lettering my own stuff was, you know, leave room for the words. It's kind of a pretty important thing. But if you're never actually putting it down, then it's hard to know if it's actually going to work. And it was a really good way of kind of learning how to develop like a flow for where the lettering is going to go, rather than just like draw stuff and leave room. Leaving room isn't enough. You kind of need to know that things are going to flow in a certain way. So while it was a horrible experience that I never cared to repeat, it did teach me a lot about drawing comics. And drawing comics has taught me a lot about writing comics. And drawing and writing comics has taught me a lot about coloring comics. And coloring comics has taught me about writing comics. So it's all, even if you don't want to pursue those disciplines, I think it does make you better at the thing that you really want to do.
That's great advice. Also, I will say to anyone that's watching us, this is a fully interactive interview. So if you have any questions for Declan, you should absolutely type them in the comments. Also, a reminder, you should, if you're not watching us on Twitch, you should go to Twitch. There's a link in the comments right now. And you can go and you can subscribe to our Twitch stream. You want to do that because on Saturday nights, that's where the dance party happens. So if you like dance parties, that's where you should log in. It's easiest when there's a link to follow, which is so cool. All right, now we're going to talk about the cool stuff. What's coming out on Wednesday? Time Before Time sounds like such my thing. Time travel and shenanigans are always the best. How in the world did you come up with this idea? Were you inspired by anything in particular?
Well, I thought I'd rip off Looper. I thought that would be a good thing to do. Partly. I think the project started because Rory McConville, who I'm co-writing it with, I know Rory for years. He's a really good writer, and he hasn't really had anything out of the States. And I thought, we could do something together. And he writes for 2000 AD, so he does a lot of big sci-fi stuff. So we were thinking something like that, but we kind of ended up weirdly making it a kind of a sci-fi crime story. And the idea was kind of, I love time travel stories, but I think they can get very kind of convoluted. And what I liked about Looper was it was very straight-laced. It didn't get too, you don't want to have to explain the machinations of time travel. It sounds cool to talk about, but it's not inherently interesting when you're reading it, that just sits on the page. And I think it's better to kind of have restrictions I think are good for storytelling, because they force you to kind of come up with more interesting solutions, rather than, I never want the reader to think, they can just go back and change time, because you can't. It's kind of one thing that we made sure very straight up is you can't change time, so there's no point trying. We don't say why exactly, but it'll come into the story more. But we just wanted to nip that in the bud, because if something happens, we want it to matter to the characters. And I think it would feel like there'd just be this huge backdoor if there was always this kind of way of getting out of time travel and whatnot. So we kind of kept it pared down, and And the idea is that basically in the future, in 2140, life is terrible. I think a lot of people can relate to that right now. But there's no hope for the future. So people are getting desperate, and the way to get out of their situation is to go back in time. And the way through that is through this criminal gang called a syndicate. So if you're willing to give up all your life savings, they'll sneak you back to a better time because everything seems better than where they are right now. And Tatsuo is one of the members of the syndicate, but he's kind of done with the life. He's sick of it. It's, like any criminal gang, no one really tends to live that long. There's not much of a future in it, so he decides to escape it somehow, and it doesn't go the way he hoped. I'll put it that way.
That makes sense. So it kind of sounds like people that are going back through time are almost like coyotes. They rely very much on the people to know what they're doing and get them to the right spot. Is it true that they actually get to go where they're told they're going?
They do, but it's as the series progresses, you'll see that it's not net. Kind of a lot of the story is kind of about how, like, I feel that people nowadays tend to catastrophize the present. I mean, I remember when COVID happened and how, a lot of us were talking, and of course bad stuff happened, but like, a lot of us are still here, and we live in this amazing time where you can talk to people online, and bad things are quite relative, and we tend to kind of catastrophize the now and romanticize the past. Mm-hmm. And kind of a lot of the story is to a degree that, like, that's not necessarily true, and things aren't necessarily. We look at the past with rose-tinted glasses, but if you're actually there, like, imagine in the stupidest way possible how much of a pain in the backside it would be to go to the cinema now. You'd have to find like listings somewhere. If you couldn't use the internet, how angry would everybody be? You'd have to
find a newspaper.
Could you imagine it? Like it's not, and there's huge cultural shifts over the years. So, it seems like a quick fix to just do that and go to but there are consequences to those things, and it's more complicated. And there were there's some themes of immigration in there, because I know it's quite a hot topic at the moment in the States, and like it's a hot topic in Europe for the last couple of years too. So I kind of liked the idea of not like answering any problems, but my favorite sci-fi always tends to touch on things that are happening now, but through a lens of the future. And I think you can kind of explore these things without it being like a hot button topic or something controversial. The idea is kind of time as geography, rather. If you look at the book, like, we don't really say where they are. Like, just location is non-specific because it doesn't matter. What matters is, like, place is the time. That's why, as you go through the series, there's like big dates over some panels and some timestamps to let you know when people are, rather than where people are, because the when is the where. And there's kind of some cool narrative things you can do with that too, which is, as a storyteller, is pretty interesting.
Ongoing series, correct?
Correct. As long as people buy the book, it's ongoing. I don't mean to talk it down or anything. It's just I don't know. I'm not a creator who's launched a series like this, except for Injection, and like that was always off the back of like uber successful Warren Ellis. So I'm not. I don't know if I'll be able to, like, if a book I do is going to last, because I've only really done graphic novels as a writer, so it's just different, But the orders for one are good, so if we can keep it up. Like Rory and I had a plan to a certain degree, like a modest plan. And if the book, we're writing all the first arc is all done, and we're working on the second one, and it just became so exciting to, like, there's just so many places you can go with an idea like this, it's really fun. So if we can find an audience, there's a lot of road we can go with it, which is really exciting.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you probably are a fan of other nerdy things. What are you consuming now in your nerddom?
I always forget what I'm watching show called Deutschland 89 right now. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a trilogy of Cold War era. It's a German TV show. It's really good. It's on Amazon. It's really, really good. I'm watching a show called Startup, which apparently is 5 years old, but it just popped up on Netflix like this week. I was watching WandaVision. I was watching. I mean, any of the Marvel stuff that comes up, I watch. What else am I watching right now? I'm drawing a blank. Rewatching Justified. Rewatching The Shield. I'm a big crime buff, so I watch a lot of that stuff. I try and not watch too much superhero stuff because I'm doing a lot of it during the day.
Sure.
It's nice to watch something else, but like when you've got stuff like WandaVision and Invincible, like I'm not going to not watch those. They're great. Invincible was great, but I try watch stuff outside of that genre because, especially if I want to tell stories and stuff, if you're just kind of watching the one thing, I think you tend to get very insular. So yeah, I'm trying to watch a different movie every week. I realized last year I watched barely any movies, so I promised myself watch a new movie every week. So I'm trying to digest as much as I can because I don't have time to read, which sucks. But yeah, that's what I got on at the moment. What about yourself? Do
you like space drama? Do you like space, like travel into space? Something happens that makes the things go wrong.
Yeah, sure. I saw something on Netflix recently that came up. What was
it Stowaway? Because I always I've learned that Netflix knows me, like whatever that AI is that gets me. So I just say yes to whatever it puts up there, even if it's something that I don't care about at all. And I always like it.
Yeah, it looks good, and was it Felicia? No, the British actress. No, that was actually no. Sorry, I'm thinking Midnight Sky. I just saw her in. But similarly, like a space drama, I'm all over those. I'm a big sci-fi head. Especially if there's still in movies. But Stowaway is good. I think I'm going to try that out for sure.
Toni Collette and I'm not going to come up with the other girl's name, but she's amazing.
There's a female actress in it that I definitely fancy. That tends to be how I judge these things. No.
Sometimes when I see people in movies that are normally kind of comedic in their portrayal of their characters, and they have someone that's serious, it takes me a while to get over it. But in this case, both with Toni and Anna Kendrick, both I bought it from the get-go. That's good.
Right, yeah, she's great. Yeah, there's some actors who are like, I'll watch anything they're in because they're just always good, and they tend to pick good material, But I know I actually had that with them. I watched a spy film with Paul Rudd in it the other day, and it's not comedic, it's dramatic, it's a true story. And that was, it's not that Paul Rudd is just a jokester or something, but he's a natural charm to him, and he normally uses that for jokes, whereas I think for this, it's literally charm. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank now, but what I'm finding myself is the moment is I'm suffering from choice paralysis. Mm-hmm. So I look at Amazon, or I look at 4OD, or I look at Netflix, and I'm like, there's different films on these, and what am I in the mood for? And a big thing for me is how long they are. If they're really long, I'm like, no, I just don't have time to watch a 3-hour film.
Exactly. I'm going to introduce you to something that will just free your life. On Netflix now, they have a little button that says "Watch something." And
really?
Literally chooses something for you. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. I haven't seen that. I don't know if it's on Netflix over here yet, but that sounds great because I find I end up spending 20 minutes trying to pick something, and my dinner's going cold.
Exactly.
But I mean, what an amazing time to live in, where you can, watch kind of anything you feel like, whenever you feel like it. It's pretty nuts. I think what I've liked about the Marvel stuff and Invincible being out on Fridays is I feel like I'm watching something on a Friday, which is kind of something to look forward to.
Going out to the movies or going on a date.
Yeah, especially anything with a routine is helpful during COVID, because it just, I mean, you have a job, so where you deal with schedules and day to day, things get more nebulous on my end. But anything that kind of put you in a headspace. So I've tried to like I said, watch a movie. I do that on Sundays. So I'll watch the TV on Friday, and I'll do something on Saturday, and I'll watch a movie on Sunday, and then on Monday at least I know it's a new. Like I know today is Monday because I watched the film yesterday. That's how I know.
All right. Corey says that he loved your work on Injection. Like, Corey's a local to us. Super cool
Thanks,
guy.
Corey.
And then I don't know which of the production team asked this question, but they said they have a very important question. Can you get them any cheap cask strength Teeling?
Teeling, that's whiskey, isn't it? Actually, I don't know. I don't know what Teeling is. It sounds familiar. I'm drawing a blank. It's annoying. I'm going to look that up. Or
You have to ask a follow-up question, production team.
Yeah, I apologize. Maybe I'm doing my country a disservice right now.
Whiskey, they say, so good.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. It's Jameson, or I pretty much only drink Jameson. I've had some American whiskeys that are just awful. They're just way too sweet. But I'm biased. Jameson's is Irish. I was pretty much raised on it, so I'm not going to change now. I'm 39 years old.
I think you get to be the final word on what was good whiskey, honestly.
I wish I could say I'm a connoisseur. I'm really not. I'm just somebody who tries one thing and then sticks with it.
All right, we've run out of time. Declan, where can everybody find you around the internet to follow you?
It shouldn't be too hard. It's Declan Shalvey, all one word, on Twitter and on Instagram. And I should mention as well Rory McConville and Joe Palmer, who I didn't mention yet, on the art on Time Before Time. You should follow them. I think Joe Palmer is all one word. Rory McConville is the same. And if I could just mention, I have a Kickstarter that's ending tomorrow, which is a process project, a process magazine about making the book. If anyone's interested in that, it's the campaign ends tomorrow, so you should check it out.
All right, well, we'll get a link for that and post it up for all you guys. All right, everybody around the experience, don't leave. We have another interview coming up next. Thank you so much, Declan, for your time. We appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.
Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Henri Compen. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Yi Sun Shin, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Hi, everybody. Now, this is going to freak you out a little bit. We're here on The Experience with a live interview. I know I'm not wearing a mask, and he's not wearing a mask, but he's related to me, so it's okay. We come from the same house. And he's actually the reason why I went and got my first shot, because he's super sweet and held my hand. This is my son, Max King.
Hello. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I'm her son. I don't know how to introduce myself. The biggest difference between us probably is that every bit extroverted she is, I'm introverted. So I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm trying.
Like most creators that I meet, that's a very rare thing to find. Yeah, I see the creeper. It's a very rare thing to find someone that's a creator that's also very comfortable in front of the camera. So I don't think you should worry about that, Max. It's totally cool. All right. So Max has been working on for the last 4 years.
It's 3.
3 years.
Yeah.
A really awesome webcomic. And I think it took me about a year to get him to actually tell me what the webcomic was about. But when I remember still being on the couch at home and him laying out the universe for me and me being super enthralled, that it didn't feel like, hey, this is my kid telling me about something he was going to make and isn't that cute. It felt like me being at the beginning of something really special. So he'll always say, Mom, you only like it because I'm your mom. But this is not true. This is me being a fan of the medium in general. This is not what they call it, nepotism in this case. So yeah, the person in the back, that is Miss Hannah. It's Miss Hannah that's working. Yep, she's working the front counter. So this is so if you didn't know, this is The Experience, and we are live in Space Cadets Collection. You can follow us on Facebook and everywhere else. You should also click subscribe and give us some hearts and some thumbs up and all of those fun things for The Experience. If you want to get in contact with us as a brand, I think somewhere down there there's a scroll. You can find our www.spacecadets.com. All right, so we're going to talk about the creative process for this webcomic. Did you always intend for it to be a webcomic when you were creating it?
So no, this is the craziest thing about the production process is that whenever I first I came up with the idea when I dropped out of college. So when I first came up with it, I was really and it's like a lot of the inspirations for it are a whole bunch of games, and so I wanted to make it a game. And it was only about like a year into thinking about it that the person I'd been working with it the whole time said, hey, I think a lot of it would fit better as a comic. And I'm very stubborn, so it took me a month to warm up to the idea. But eventually I did agree to it because I thought to myself, I can at least hire somebody who knows how to be an artist, but I don't know the first thing about making a game. So this may be a better way to get started with creating things.
I can remember when the game thing was on the table, and I was like, I don't know if it'll stand out as much as a game because there's so much of that kind of content out there. And I knew as a person in the industry that webtoons have become a widely accepted medium, and where a lot of people enjoyed their content and then they would support it. And a lot of those things became physical comic books and got picked up for other projects like movies and TV and those kinds of things. So I thought it makes a lot of sense to do. Now, the technical portion about how to make that happen, what did you have to do to research what it took to like format a webcomic? Does it get drawn differently?
So the thing is about webtoons is I did do a whole lot of researching about it. Because webtoons comics are not, they don't function the same as a comic, whereas on webtoons, the way that you read it is you scroll down on a page. And so it's got like a very limited resolution that you can export things in. And then whenever you look at all of the videos where they're telling you how to make a webtoon comic, they say never have more than 2 panels on the screen at the same time. Because that's the way they run things, and they don't want people to look at pages which are full, but there's a lot of space in them rather. Mm-hmm. And the way they want, because I think that the satisfaction people feel from reading a comic is from scrolling. And usually whenever I read comics on Webtoon, it's not usually the big pull for me. I suppose it's just sort of a normality where if it was more compact, you may feel like it was shorter. But I like it whenever there's a lot more to look at on the screen at the same time, and it's all cool and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now you actually created this with a bunch of people that you have never met physically.
Yes.
Yep. So you've got tell them about who the people are and what they contribute to the book.
So we have 3 people on the team. I am the lead on it. I'm the writer, and I'm what do I call this position? Like a director. I make sure everyone. I make everything organized. I run all the social media, and then we have Ace, who's on the team, and what he does is he always helps me with like the more background lore bits, because that's something he's crazy about, is knowing all that background stuff. Whereas now I only have so much room in my brain, so I have to focus on what is always being shown in the comic. And so so he mostly focuses on lore bits, but also he does all the music, which is really good, because we have a soundtrack that you can listen to while you're reading the comic, which I feel like really it brings a lot of feel to it, where you understand what you're supposed to be feeling based on the music as you're reading it. And then we have Gaz, the final member, and they are the amazing artist on our team. The reason everything looks as amazing as it does is because of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you had like a talent search to find them. Is that correct?
Yes, I used a website called Casting Call, and I just said, hey, I'm making a comic. I need an artist. Someone who's willing to let me hire you. Please contact me.
You're right, Corey. I've not said the name of the comic yet. It's called Soul Within, and we'll have all the links for that, so don't worry. It is on Webtoon, so it's easy to find. It's a soul, and then within, separate words.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably also find it that way. But yeah, we'll definitely share all the links. It also has a Patreon, so if you, because the web comics are free, but if you'd like to support it and find some extra content, like you think he's got some different levels that allow you to have, for example, interviews that he puts out that help with tell you about the creative process that's happening as he moves through the book. So you get to see his thought process and why the things that are happening, and what they made the decisions for coloring and all those kinds of things. And your highest level has got some crazy level of behind the scenes stuff, right?
Yeah. So it's like it's got 3 different tiers, but the highest tier is mostly meant to be stuff that's behind the scenes. So you basically get the comic in its rawest form, which is all the rough sketches from the artist and the script that I made initially for the chapter. Once it's all out and released, just because, spoilers, because it'd be a lot less impactful to just read the script rather than experiencing the full comic, I think.
That's true. All right, so give them kind of the loose pitch for the book. If you just had to give like a paragraph or so of the actual what's the story about for everybody.
So, quickest way I can put it, this is also the pitch, which is in the first episode of the comic, which I feel like is a good thing that really gives the people an idea of the sort of just the feel what we're going for. But basically, the pitch is that whenever you think about a video game world, it has like a very set, it's like a duration that you get to experience it, where it's like this is where the story occurs, and then whenever it's done, that world effectively is over because you never get to see it again unless if there's a sequel. But the idea is usually the beginning of that world and the end of that world are all based on a legend. And what happens if there was a legend for one of these worlds, but it never got to happen, and the world was just allowed to persist long past its expiration date.
And who's your main characters?
Main characters, some of them haven't actually been introduced in the book yet.
Oh, well, just tell what people, if they had access to what was already published out there on the webtoons.
Well, I think I can just give a brief description of all the main characters we're planning to have in the first volume of it, which is Mary, who is the main character. I'm not going to say too much about them because that would be spoilers. But
Don't.
Okay, and then we have, I'll just briefly say what they are. Mary is a teacher at a magic academy, and then you have Tom, who is a detective who also uses magic. And then you have other main characters for the beginning of the story is eventually Jack and Yoriko, who are Mary's students.
And so in this world that all of this exists in, magic is not a special thing. It's a normal thing. Is that correct?
Yes, everyone is able to use magic.
But they learn how to use it better by going to school and learning from Mary?
Yes, because it's a sort of thing where it's like the way I explain how you learn spells are able to be cast is it's like learning a word almost, where it's like a very specific way that it's spoken, and so you have to learn that. And if you don't know how to say something, whenever you try to say the word, it's just not going to function the same. And spells are sort of the same way, where you have to learn how they work, and then the better you are at speaking, in this allegorical sense, the better you are at speaking, the better the results are. And same goes for spellcasting in this case.
Just a reminder here that we are on the experience, and this is a fully interactive video. Please feel free to ask questions. You have access to my son, so you can get all the skinny, I guess, about if you want to know something about life in our house, which is pretty boring, and we're all nerds.
Very
Surprise.
Yeah.
And also a reminder, please do subscribe to the mailing list. They're going to put up a link for you. The mailing list actually will allow you to get just a weekly email that's going to tell you what's coming up. So we're getting that just put together so it is really seamless. You're not going to get a bunch of emails from us. You're not going to end up having 3 a day, which I know is super annoying. This is a once a week rundown of who's being interviewed and when and what shows are coming on, so you don't miss anything. It also helps to subscribe. You should get like notifications for those things. So thank you for that. Let's see what else I want to ask you about this process. I did listen to some of the soundtrack, and it is very clear that the soundtrack has been kind of influenced by the video game sound. How did the person that worked on that make the decision to do what they're doing for the soundtrack?
Well, I think again, it's the reason. It's like we have a list of our greatest influences when we were making this thing, I think, and almost all of them actually aren't comics; they're games, which is may seem a little bit backwards, but I think that's certainly why the soundtrack takes on a game-like feel to it, is because that was a lot of his personal inspiration whenever it came to working on it.
Corey says, "Who knows? It may end up with a TV show because We Bare Bears started out as a webcomic." I did not know that.
That'd be very cool. I would love to have a show someday. I can't imagine that.
Yeah. And so I've read. How much did you let me read?
You read up to just about what's released now.
Okay, so good. I'm glad I've got my Patreon so I can read the rest of it. I felt like when I was reading it, of course, I read it in a little different format than the webcomic format. Mm-hmm. I read it more like a traditional comic book format, but I really could see it as being. I couldn't really. I don't know if I want to see it as like a live action. I really do think it would be best served as being animated. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about that at all?
Someday? I don't know. It's just like running a project like this it's a lot of work. So there's a lot that goes into my head all the time. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes things like that, like when I was first starting, I would think about stuff like that all the time, where I would imagine scenes from it as like if they were being animated. But maybe I just don't have like the RAM in my head for it anymore. I've run out of storage space. But someday, if the opportunity presents itself and it's something that can be achieved in the present, I'd go for it.
So are we allowed to mention the color design that occurs on the page?
Oh, of course,
I think that happens right away.
Yeah.
Can you describe that? It's very interesting. It's a black and white comic, but.
So it is a grayscale comic in the style of manga, which is just it's just Japanese graphic novels. But I wanted to there's color incorporated in it, and basically the rule of the comic is that something is always in color if it's magic, and if it's not in color. And so I feel like this really makes like the all the magic on the page really stick out. And so it makes it it's like sort of the philosophy of less is more, where it's like it's less color overall, but it does make the color that's there stand out that much more, and it is really impactful.
Mm-hmm. And it also, if you're paying attention, informs you about characters that you think you know something about, but you might not.
It's true.
Yeah. Which I love. That's one of those things I like when you're like going, I'm just paying attention. so I know some things.
That is something that it's like when I've been working and reworking the same storyline for 3 years. It's something where it's like the story is so self-involved with itself that it's always going to be building on itself. And so if you pay close attention, there will be some things you might be able to guess before they happen, or there'll be some things that like. My goal is to make it so every chapter that gets released, whenever a full chapter's out, you can reread the whole thing again, and it's even more interesting.
I see that's great. Where like you get a little more information that makes prior scenes mean more.
Mhm.
Okay, so Animated Comics says, if your mom owns a comic store, does saying I'm working on my comic get you out of stuff like cleaning your room or doing chores? Does it?
No, well, out of cleaning my room, no one really cares about my room. It's however I do it, but
It's his domain.
yeah. But they do still make me. My job is taking out the trash, so it doesn't get me out of stuff like that. And it wasn't like she's funded the book either. The 3 years that I've been thinking it over is 3 years that I've been working at the store and saving my money to be able to fund this thing.
Yes, this is his own project. I didn't hook him up with any connections. I didn't give him any money other than I subscribe to the Patreon because I'm also a fan of the book, other than being his mom. But it's like, I'm telling you, it was a nail biter because I wanted to be the first subscriber so badly that I actually subscribed before he made it technically live.
I had launched it, but that's just because I wanted the link. It was the Tuesday before I went live. Yeah.
Haha. Okay, so can I tell about the shop? My favorite scene.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, they can read it.
Okay, so since it's a free webcomic, and this part's already out there in the world, but I do want to tell you about this because I think it's darling. If you want to get a kind of a feeling for the mood and tone of the book. So the beginning of the book starts with Mary just kind of like walking through the town, which is kind of how you get to learn that it's a magical world, right? Because there's people that obviously are that in the stores. There's magical items that you can buy, for example. And so she goes to is it more than a clothing store, or is it different places she's going?
It's more she visits 3 locations. It's like
Okay.
a market, a specifically tailored magic store, and then a clothing store.
Okay, so the clothing store is something that I love because it's like the typical clothing store where there's like a rounder of this and a rounder of that, and there's signs above it, right, to give you an idea of what it's about. So as she's walking through, you see that there's a rounder of clothes that just says the word battle above it. Battle. Like everyone needs battle clothes, right, in this universe? And then there's another rounder that says casual. So you've got casual clothes. And then there's another rack that says battle casual. So I thought it was such a clever thing that I actually made myself a shirt that says battle casual. I should have worn it today. Man, I have failed as a mother. Oh, so sad. But anyway, there's little clever things like that make, when you're reading a book, that make you happy, right? Because it's the detail stuff that's in there. But it could have said anything, right? And been innocuous. Green, blue, green and blue.
It is something that like whenever you're funding your own comic and you're detailing to your artist what you want on each page, you do tend to pack it with detail because you're paying for all of it.
Yeah.
And it's also it's like you don't know it's like the sort of thing where like you don't know that how long the comic is going to run, so putting as much as you can into it as long as it's going.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so have any of your creative team come back to you and said, I can't do that, what you're asking for on the page, that's not possible? Or suggest another way?
It's it's usually the latter where it's just like, hey, what you recommended here, there's no way all these speech bubbles are fitting on this panel. So I've redone it for you. Does this look better? And usually I'm just like, yes, totally understandable. It's my first script I'm writing, so thank you for being patient with me.
Do you feel like you're wordy? You're wordy in the writing?
Sometimes in certain cases I have been quite wordy, but I mean, that's sort of, it's almost like having a built-in editor, having an artist that works off your work, because they'll come back to you sometimes and be like, hey, I don't know about this. And you'll be like, yeah, I don't know about that either. I'll fix it.
Well, I mean, they can also say to you, the thing that I've learned about the comic book creation process is that oftentimes a writer will write something that can be shown as action in the panel, so it doesn't need to be said. So probably that kind of stuff's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's hard to know, like, can this fit in the panel, or can it be shown in the panel?
Yeah, and it's just something that I've been trying to work my way to not only understanding what can fit on a panel, but usually I've been like color coding scripts I've been doing going forward, which is like I make everything that I think will fit onto one page the same color. And so it's usually just me guessing, like, hey, I'm trying to make an estimate of how much I think can fit on a page, and they'll tell me yes or no. But I'm just trying to. It's experience I think would be useful to have when writing.
So how long did it take you to figure out the technical process of uploading what you were creating onto Webtoons?
How long it took to figure out how to upload it?
Yeah,
like an
super
hour.
simple.
Yeah, it's the simplest thing ever.
I am the least despite the fact that I'm on all the time on something technical, I don't know what I'm doing at all. That's why we have JD and Kyle and and Jerry and all the production team, because I don't know how to do those things. So I always feel like it's all magical. So that it took you an hour is amazing to me.
They have a lot of videos on it to help you out. So
You are a techno ninja. Yes, you are. I often send messages like, I don't know. Well, and mostly for the store. I'm so glad we have an IT person, because I often send messages like, this doesn't work. Make this work.
I actually did get the website up, and okay.
Yeah?
I said I'm good with technology just like a few seconds ago, right? But making a website is something that I watch so many videos to try to get tips on it. Making a website is something that is really difficult, which is why the website, which is Soulcourt, and Court is spelled with a K, soulcourt.com, is where you can read it. That's what I recommend if you're on the computer, because the music's already there and it's better formatted to be read on the computer. And also, for whatever reason, Webtoons doesn't let you put music onto your comics to play with it unless if you're part of their featured system, which, I mean, I hope they pick me up for someday, because that means I will be able to put the music on it. But as of right now, you'd have to be playing the music on your own, which is, I mean, they have the technology for it. I wish they just give me the ability to.
And the music's easy. It's just a downloadable Google file. So you download it into your phone and play it as you're watching the scrolling through the comic, right? I had to learn that. I'm so used to this.
It's different.
Very much. So how long do you have planned in your head for the comic to last? Chapter-wise or time-wise?
Chapter-wise or time-wise? To give you an example, we are about I have 3 episodes released, which I think there are 9 total in chapter 1. I know that other chapters are going to be shorter. We're aiming for something more like 6 to 7 episodes. But for just volume 1, which is like the collection of all these chapters, and it's sort of like a cap off where it's like a good ending spot for the narrative to be where we pause and get our buffer worked back up again, is I think it's either 10 or 11 chapters. So this is something that, like, if we're working nonstop from now till then, volume 1 may be done in more than a year. And beyond that, we have 5 volumes planned. So we have a lot, we have a lot prepared. But it's a story that means a lot to me, and I feel like I don't mind taking the extra time on it. That I feel like it's a story that could not be told in any shorter amount of time, and that it's always going to keep you engaged. And at the end, it will give you a feeling I had to think a lot in order to achieve, but I hope I convey well through my work.
Perfect. All right, again, find Soul Within. There's lots of links over here. This is Max King, which you won't find on social media because he's a hermit. But you can find him. You can interact with him through the Patreon and the webcomic. He'll actually answer. That's him actually answering you himself.
I also do run, we have an Instagram and a Twitter. That's
What?
Soulcourt, yeah.
Okay, cool. He's coming to the social age. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Stay tuned on the experience, because up next is Mishmash. watching Minute to Skim It on the Experience. So, hello. All right, we've got lots of books to review for you guys today. And Hannah just basically showed up with just the number ones and showed them to me, and I was like, "Oh, we have
just for the indies."
Just for the indies, yeah. I was like, we have got a lot to do.
Hi, I'm Robert Vendetti, professional comic book writer, and I want you to know about the new Bad Idea comic book series, Tankers. As the world well knows, I'm what's called a method writer. That means before I begin a project, I don't just study the material, So to take a deep dive into the subject, I came to the one place on Earth where I can operate mechanized combat equipment, dig for oil, and shoot dinosaurs. XT, baby! I'm down to the tank! No oil yet? Every second of my immersive research experience guarantees that Tankers is unlike anything you've read from me before. I should know. I've read everything I've ever written. Tankers is about a crack team of mercenaries and mech suits who work for Greenleaf Oil. They get sent back in time to divert the comet to kill the dinosaurs. More dinosaurs in the past means more oil in the present. Who doesn't love that? And with a superstar art team providing breathtaking covers and interiors, Tankers is an action-fueled thrill ride of human versus dinosaur warfare that we can't wait for you to read. So go ahead, order Tankers today. I guarantee I'll be glad you did. As for me, I'll be finishing off these dinosaurs. Extinction Day.